Hey, what's up? It's a son of God named Miles and a brother Jesus Christ. Um, hey, I'm alive. I'm here. Um, I know for anybody who actually was watching my videos, it's been a long time and everything, and I'm just here maybe to carry the message. Um, our world is at a state of where it's supposed to be because all the religions that we have, and I guess specifically around Christianity, is it's a failure. It's a failure because we've neglected God, we've neglected His Son Jesus Christ, we've neglected for putting our faith in that we believed in having God's Spirit and also Jesus's too within us, and that our spirit or soul, whatever you want to call it, is in heaven. We're not necessarily, I would say, in the end times, right? Because in order for the breathing pains to happen, obviously, I think some worse things are supposed to happen, but I think that we're obviously getting there. Nations rising against nations, wars and rumors of wars, famines and earthquakes. I think there's going to be a persecution of real faithful believers who understands and who has listened to the testimony of Jesus himself and paid attention to the signs of religious traditions and man made things and doctrines of men that are playing into the cause of where our world is actually at. In history, when the people in power are there, the winners sometimes determine the history of what has happened, but luckily, within that history, there's been maybe some slight honesty. I think within the Trinitarian rulers that have been a part of this world, and they are the world, they ended churches or persecuted and killed, and then it becomes socially acceptable, and that's a part of society, and this is what you're supposed to believe. You're supposed to believe in a three-person God, and that's that. It's very sad that no one actually just reads their Bible and starts figuring out these things. If you spent time and actually read it, you would be ones who are kicked out of the synagogues and or the churches, or you would feel like you do need to leave these places because they're wrong. It's not the right places that you're supposed to be. And some people are probably like, well, where are you supposed to go? Where are you supposed to go? And a lot of Christians always do wonder that, what denomination that you're supposed to go to and everything. But there is no, I guess you would say, earthly denomination that you're supposed to actually be a part of, at least within what I've tried to figure out in my walk of like, where do I go, of maybe finding believers. But Christ talks about how even within his own sayings, and I really don't see it as it just talking about the disciples themselves, but he talks about, there being, he talks to a little flock, that the size of the faithful believers, the ones who believe in, have the faith of Abraham, we're a faithful people. We're not a people who believes in necessarily my works and how I'm a good person and all this different stuff. He talks to the little flock because there's a small size of it. The way is narrow and few who find it. The flock is small. The seed itself that he talks about, A faith that is as small as a mustard seed is not only that when you have the true faith, and that faith may be small, it does grow bigger than all the other faiths in the world. All different faiths in this world has some sort of ability to grow, right? Within any sort of religion. It doesn't make it that it doesn't make it to be the right religion though, right? Or the right faith. Just because something has grown and has power and may has existed for a long time doesn't really make it the right faith for any sort of religion. Like I said, it doesn't have to be Christianity and different denominations. But that seed itself is about the size. It's like a size of the collected flock of believers itself as well. And that small of a seed has the power to truly impact the world in the right way of what God and Jesus intended for us to do. We carry a responsibility to be that proper seed. But that seed is so few that I don't even know if I've really encountered anyone who necessarily is trying to be on the right path. I've met, obviously I've met Trinitarians and have interacted with different denominations in that field, but I've also encountered non-Trinitarians who, just because you don't believe in the Trinity doesn't mean that you're in the right path and the right faith. It doesn't. If you don't believe that you've received God's Spirit and also Jesus's as well, even though you don't believe in the Trinity, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. You have to be the ones who receive the right Spirit or understand it, put your faith in it, and then you can go from on there. I've met non-Trinitarians who are works-based people. They don't understand that your works are produced from your faith. Meaning, you put your faith in God and Jesus and working through you to do the works of what is God's will, right? I don't just go and start giving food to people and stuff like that because I'm necessarily told it and that I think I'm going to get something out of it. I have to ask and believe and have faith that I'm going to be put in a position and I get confirmation of that position to do those works. And that's how it works. It's a faith-based kingdom or government. That's what Christ called us to have, and then that's what all of our apostles and disciples in their writings and epistles had told us. There's basically, in my mind, that I can think of right now, and if there is something that slips, maybe I'll add on to it, but it's like there's only two real traditions that we have as Christians that we do, right? One tradition is taking communion, and it's eating of bread and drinking of wine, or if you do have, I would say that there's a nuance to it of the juice or the wine. I'm someone in recovery, right? I know that this is a spiritual weakness up for me, so I wouldn't drink wine, right? There's nuance in that, but you just eat it. Christ told us just to do it in remembrance of Him. When will we just listen to that? To it? It doesn't matter what your church says or whatever. Christ should be the head of all of you. Why aren't we believing in that? A water baptism is a tradition that we should do, right? But if you end up dying like the thief on the cross, do you not go to heaven? Of course you do. We have proof of it in Scripture. It's very obvious. But you should do it as an appeal to a good conscience that what the baptism represents is the life and death and resurrection of Christ, and you take on that same belief for God, and it's an expression of your faith that you believe in what God did and what Jesus did, and it's an appeal to God and to Christ. And it's appeal of your good conscience that you know that you are saved. It's an expression of faith, and it's a tradition that we should do. But that's it. Pretty much. We've made it so difficult, and we have not listened to what our Bibles have told us. It's a sad reality. You're going to fail in the walk. You will sin. But you trust in the process that God and Jesus will circumcise the flesh. You don't believe that, oh, I'm just going to do the things that I'm told to do and rely on my own self-will to stop myself from doing these things. No, that's not how you do it. That's a works-based salvation way of thinking of things. There's no faith in my country. I live in America. All these things that are happening is a consequence of this, because we're not really a nation that follows God and Jesus and knows them and who they are. We're not. The world is not like that whatsoever either. There is nowhere that has an actual faith like what God in Christ asks of us to have. Nowhere. And I think that's clearly why the times that we have and why the end times does eventually happen itself, because it's a proof of the consequence of basically no one in this world who really follows in what God and Jesus asked of us. And it's taken over throughout these multiple centuries and stuff by the wrong faiths and the wrong beliefs and the control and power and persecution. And I hate to say it, but there's been many people who have died who are within Christian denominations and faith and who have been persecuted. If they believed in the wrong gospel and all this different stuff, they're not going to make it. It's not a good reality to think about sometimes when you're sitting there. Like, I've had to sit there and think about that. It sucks. I don't know. I guess I just came on here because there's been things that maybe I've wanted to say and topics that I wanted to talk about and stuff. But whenever I do that, I always go to them to be like, hey, like, is there a subject matter you want me to talk about? Is there a doctrine? Is there things that are happening that we need to talk about? Blah, blah, blah. And it hasn't been happening. And it's been months too, right? Like, I haven't been on here in a long time. And for some reason, I guess today was that day. For whatever reason. There's hope when you look at Christ's words. There's the right path when you look at his words. You have to read it. You gotta acknowledge it. And I think many of you, who maybe are people who are deep in their Bibles, you do see it, but you don't truly act on it. You're worried about, well, what about my community that I've had for my church? Or if I do this, then I will lose that community of people in my church, you know? There's the fear of the majority of people do believe in these certain things and stuff like that. Doesn't that then, if I'm thinking and seeing this differently, does that 100% make me wrong? Not necessarily, no. You have to believe in Jesus and what he said. He told everyone things that are so, like, weirdly different, and it's so weird to see that people can't see some of, like, the most obvious things. It's a sad reality. But I don't know. I guess that's just who we are as people. I'm grateful for God and Jesus putting me on this right path, but it sometimes is overwhelming to see a different just type of world and result than what people really recognize. You have systems, businesses, markets, systems of control, different matrices, if you want to say it, systems of control that want to control your soul, your behavior, what you need to believe religiously in different ways, politically in different ways, all this different stuff. And for my country, in America, I fear for it and where it's going to go for political reasons, but there's the religious and spiritual aspect to it on both sides. One side, it's very obvious right now of like how fallen that state for people who stick with that believe in, but even on the right, you're being controlled in a way actually that you don't necessarily see it, and that it's going to, I think, eventually lead to a lot of problems. And it's because we truly are, as much as we think that on the right we're connected truly with God and with Jesus and stuff, and maybe it looks like some results and how we go about things are better than what the left does and all this different stuff, there's a different standard to what God and Jesus asks of us: to be saved, to follow them, to have the true experience of what they have for us to be shown to the world. We're not willing to do it though. We're not willing to do it because many of us just aren't truly in the... We don't have the true God. America doesn't have it. It's the reality. So, I don't know. I made this video for a reason, I guess. We'll see what happens. It'll get to some people. Probably many will just deny it. So, and maybe if there's one, maybe they'll start reading their Bible and start trusting in what Jesus said to us. So, have a good one.